welcome to another episode of the DC Comics Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose rig runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It's the Emerald Enthusiast, here with a special guest.
If you're watching the video, you can see we have somebody else, as Donnie alluded to, and I'm going to let him give one of his usual entertaining introductions. So, Donnie, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and beings of the Omniverse, please welcome soldier, musician, the current writer of Action Comics. He will spark your imagination and then choke you into submission. He is Phillip Kennedy Johnson.
What's up, guys? Good to see you. Man, you are an enthusiast. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Nice energy.
I'm
He's
glad
got
that you didn't
energy.
think that was
I don't know how
stupid.
he's got it all the time, but he does. It's a pleasure to have you, Phillip. I'm a huge Superman fan. He's one of my top two favorite fictional characters of all time. So to be able to talk to somebody who's currently writing and guiding his adventures is a special treat for me. So I really appreciate it, and I know Donnie does as well.
Yeah, it's an honor.
So, in the spirit of what I just said, when did you first get exposure to comic books, and what were some of your early favorite characters?
I was just a little kid, man. I didn't live in a house where playing was a big thing. Like the people playing with me that kind of thing didn't really happen much, but they were really good about reading to me. There were a lot of books in the house, and my dad was always saying he learned how to read. Like he taught himself to read from comic books when he was real small. So he was just a huge proponent of reading. So he would go to these flea markets and garage sales, come home with boxes of old, like second, third hand books. And that kind of became these three, as I got more and more comics that way, they kind of became these three big piles of DC, Marvel, and then like the cartoony stuff, like things that the kind of characters that eventually got wrapped up in DuckTales. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of the old Gladstone comics and Golden Key. Looks like Scrooge McDuck and Beagle Boys and Huey, Dewey, Louie and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. But I was I would go on a streak where I would read a ton of just one of those three piles. But I mean, if I had to pick one, I think I tended to gravitate towards the DC superhero stuff. And my two big heroes were Batman and Superman, I think. Because first of all, those are the ones you see the most, right?
Yeah.
Like I had a lot of old, like really old World's Finest and Brave and the Bold and those kind of things. You'd see one of those characters team up with somebody else or with each other very often. Yeah, man, those were kind of my jam. And especially I was out in the country kind of alone. I really needed those heroes in my life. You know, like my whole life was kind of spent in my imagination. And just imagining that I was Batman or Superman just meant a lot to me. Like having the Batman fantasy of like I was kind of a sad kid in real life, and I could kind of connect to the idea of a young Bruce Wayne, like trying to make himself into this powerful thing. But also Superman, probably more so Superman, who again I could relate to as a young kid living in the country by himself, kind of didn't understand his place in the world, and just kind of this fantasy that people who loved me had sent me there to save everyone and all that. It was just this really powerful fantasy that meant like everything to me. So yeah, I mean those were my those would have been my favorite characters. I also was a big fan of Spider-Man. I had a bunch of Spider-Man team-up books as well. And a lot of the cartoony adventure books were kind of fun. Like they had a lot of really fun stories, like Scrooge McDuck taking his family off into some big adventure to find the golden city of whatever. You know, there was a lot of stuff like that was always really fun. I enjoyed those too. But gun to my head, I'd say Batman and Superman are kind of my jam.
Yeah, and I totally understand the sentiment, how you said you could imagine yourself as either of those two characters. I found that, because I'm the same way, Batman and Superman are my first and foremost, and then Green Lantern, Flash, Spider-Man, Daredevil, but it always like starts with Batman and Superman. And I found that, especially when I was younger and even now, quite frankly, whoever's I can't choose a clear favorite, like they alternate. And it really depends on my mood. So if I'm kind of like angry at something, I gravitate toward Batman. If I'm more hopeful, which is nothing, the last year and a half has been difficult with that. It's like, all right, but when I'm more hopeful, it's Superman. So yeah, I totally get that sentiment for sure.
Yeah. I got picked on a lot as a kid, and it's not like I was filled with vengeance like Batman or whatever. But it's more the fantasy of that you can make yourself
Oh yeah.
more than you are. You know, you can all it takes is incredible hard work and just trying to be, thinking 2 steps ahead of everyone else, and it's kind of making yourself more than you're supposed to be, like just deciding you're going to be more than that thing. This is just a powerful, empowering idea, So that's, I really believe, all the other superheroes in the Justice League and so many other characters that have arisen since then are also super cool. And I've grown to love so many other characters in the DC mythology. But those two, I guess, just the idea of the all-powerful being that can do anything that chooses to be the best version of who he could be, but also just the regular guy who just who puts himself on that same level. Those two ideas are just the yin and yang of comics for me.
Yeah. Superman's kind of the hero that we all wish we could be, that we all,
Definitely.
that we all aspire to, the highest aspirations.
Yeah, so. And Batman is kind of like the act of making that happen. You know, like just taking that will and just making yourself more than the sum of your parts.
Fantastically said. Yeah.
All right. Well, sir, you are a Renaissance man. Now, how have your interests like music and MMA influenced your creations as a comic book creator?
Oh, thanks for saying that. That's a kind statement. The more life experience you have, the more you have to say, right? I know writers who kind of just shut themselves in their office and just focus on just the craft of it, just really hone their craft, and just see writing as this creative artistic endeavor, and they kind of crack the code of it, and that's super important. You've got to take the time to do that. But if you never live your life, what are you even writing about, right? You have to have your own opinions of the world, your own experience in the world to have anything to say, in my opinion. And I've tried to do that. I don't just live my life because I want to write about it. But I have tried to. Basically, I'm not much of a spectator, I guess. Like my whole life, when something moves me or inspires me, I just kind of feel the need to do that thing. It's not enough for me to watch a sport that I like, or to just read a comic or a book, or just watch a movie. Like I want to make these things. I want to do these things. So like UFC, like I think UFC was awesome, and I was like, it looks incredible. I want to be able to do this.
I'm old enough to remember the first few UFCs when it was just chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a straight up tournament. Like the whole thing started as like this big competition, like who's almost like the DC versus Marvel, like who would win in a battle, the Hulk or Superman. So you've got like, who's going to win, the Kempo guy or the boxer or the the Kung Fu master or the sumo wrestler or whatever. And that's when we really started to figure out which styles just don't work, in practical application. So that when the tournament thing was really interesting, but it was kind of a sideshow. Like it had this weird circus kind of quality to it. Yeah. But then as it went on and people started to really figure out, okay, like you've got to know some jiu-jitsu to really succeed, but you also have to have some striking in there too. It started to evolve into this kind of amalgamation style all its own. And you can still, I love how versatile it still is. There are people who rely less on boxing and more on karate striking, or less on jiu-jitsu, more on judo or whatever. Like you can still make the style your own. Or some people are still just pure one thing. Like I'm just going to be the best. I'm not going to do jiu-jitsu at all. I'm just going to be the best striker. I'm going to be so goddamn good I can just knock anyone out in one punch. Everyone's got their own style, but you've also got all these fighters who've become true artists and who've done just unbelievable things. Yeah. So I love that. I'm enthralled with it, and I want to do it. I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus from it right now, because due to COVID, I haven't really been rolling with anyone. I'm basically just working a bag and teaching my son how to fight. But also,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's been really fun. It's been fun to work with him. So he and I will get on the map, but he's still very small. It's not like we're really rolling like as peers. I'm just like, I've got a little wrestling dummy that's his size, and so depending on what we're doing, I'll have him either do shit on me or to the dummy. But I'm also, I've been in the military for about 16 years, and I'm starting to, like, I'm getting tired of going to work with like broken bones. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
I'm going to start, I'm going to take a hiatus for a couple years, wait till I get to 20, and then I'll start rolling again. So I'm just going to focus more on just fitness right now for the next little bit, and just work a bag, just, not spar, but just do stuff on my own until I hit my 20, and then I'll start getting on the mat again.
All right. Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess I don't feel like I really answered the question all that well. How my various interests serve me as a comic book writer. Basically, in a nutshell, I would just say living a full life just gives you more things to say. There are things I care about, not just my hobbies and careers like music or the military or those things, but also the things I've kind of discovered about myself, like the things I've learned that I really care deeply about, like human trafficking, or the political divisions in our country right now, or fatherhood. These things are things that have come up in my mind a lot, so they find their way into my books, even when I'm not really trying. I think it was Ed Brubaker one time. Somebody asked him. I heard this story secondhand. I think he was talking about it on a panel or something. Somebody had asked him, should I try to put my own life experience into my characters or into my stories? And he said, no, because you'll do that anyway. Like you will come through your work, whether you try to make that happen or not. So to try to do it deliberately, like this is going to be the story about my experience as a teacher or whatever. Even if you don't do it directly, it'll come through anyway, and it'll probably be more honest if you just kind of let it happen organically.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that I don't often set out to preach to the reader about a specific thing or give a lesson about something. The things I care about or the things I know about just kind of come through my work.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So when was the moment, or was there a moment particularly, when you knew you wanted to and were going to be a comic book professional?
There wasn't really a moment where I just kind of decided to be a pro. I just kind of got the bug and just decided that I loved it. Like the way I discovered I loved MMA, like we talked about, or music or whatever. So I had not. So I loved. I learned how to read off of comics, as we discussed, and then I grew up reading and making comics all the way through school. Until I went off to college. I think by the time I went off to college, I was subscribing to a couple of monthly comics, but then I kind of let them lapse because I was just so damn busy all the time that I wasn't really reading for fun anymore. I was reading stuff for school, and I was practicing constantly. I was going to school for music, and so I just sold my soul to the practice room, just constantly playing and studying and rehearsing and just working really hard. So I didn't really read for fun. So I fell out of comics. And even then, I'd never been in a comic shop. Like I was buying all my stuff off the spinner rack at the grocery store or something. But mostly, I was just, I still just had those piles of really old comics that I just kind of fell into. I was not reading a whole lot of new stuff. Eventually, I did discover like Superman, like Triangle Era Superman, and like Nightfall, Night's End era Batman.
Right. Yeah.
Joe Mad and Jim Lee X-Men. That was kind of my last era when I was still reading regularly, and then I fell out of it and I was doing my career. So I have a younger brother who's also a musician and an artist, and he decided to go the other way. Decided he wanted to be a comic artist, and didn't really know how to get started. He and I just lived in the country, didn't really have internet to speak of. This is years ago. Didn't know what to do next. He didn't really have any sequential pages. He didn't have any pages of actual comic pages. He just had like pinups and just individual drawings that look good, but were not really a portfolio. And I didn't know what to tell him either. I didn't know shit about comics anymore. and I'd never known how to make them. I just loved reading them. But he just didn't know what to do with his career. I was like, dude, just move in with me. And we'll start. I know there are conventions here and there. Like, just move in with me. We'll start going to cons. We'll find some shops. We'll just see what the state of the art is like and see how. I mean, people got to do this. Like, people bust in somehow. Like, let's just see let's find out how it works. Let's educate ourselves together. So he moved in with me, and for like 6 months, we were just going to conventions, going to shops. I started writing again just to give him stuff to illustrate. I just wrote basically a couple of poems that he then made into sequential stories. We also made for our sister's high school graduation, we made her a little comic with her as the hero.
That's cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cool. And,
That's awesome.
we just kind of educated ourselves together like we said we were gonna. And he actually ended up joining the Army too. I was already in active duty by that point. And he discovered that they have a job in the Army called Multimedia Illustrator, in which you can just join up and they'll train you in the software that an illustrator needs to know how to use, like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign. And after you'll use that for your job, and then when you get out, you've got the GI Bill if you want to go to school after that. So he enlisted and learned how to basically train him how to be a comic book artist in the Army, not literally for comics, but everything that he needed to know.
Right.
And then he went to Savannah College of Art and Design after that. Now he just got done. So
Awesome.
that's kind of so while he's doing all that, when he started getting busy with military, I got in the bug hardcore. Like when I was helping him become a comic artist, I was like, damn, this is really fun. I love the collaborative nature. This is like jazz. It's like small group jazz where you're collaborating with a small group of pros, and everyone who's playing affects everyone else in the team, and you make this beautiful thing together. I just saw a lot of familiar stuff in the process of making comics to how music is made, and I just completely fell in love with it. And I made a lot of friends, and at some point, I just started making comics with them. And one of those became Last Sons of America at Boom Studios. So, I mean, after that, it became a lot easier to get my next book made, and the next book after that, and the next one. And I started to realize, okay, now I'm actually, rather than paying artists to draw my shit for me, like now I'm starting to get paid for this. This is something I could potentially do down the line. So there wasn't like a moment where I was like, now I will go forth and be a pro. It was more like this slow, gradual process of learning, of becoming a pro almost accidentally.
So you didn't have a Batman Wolf moment where you're like, all right, now on the candle, I'm going to swear to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing shattered the glass next to you or anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no riders busting through the windows at me or anything.
That would actually be kind of weird. It'd be kind of creepy. Well, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim Lee burst through the window.
Yeah, right.
So, sir, Action Comics is where the entire superhero comic book phenomenon was born. What goes through your mind as a creator on such a historically important piece of pop culture?
Oh man, it's just the biggest honor. I could not ask for a greater honor than to be writing Action Comics. I mean, depending on the era and who's doing what book and all that, sometimes Superman has been considered the more prominent book, just like Batman is considered more prominent than Detective. But that's not how I see it. Like to me, Action Comics is the legacy book, and that's. I mean, I see Detective that way too. It would be an honor to write Detective someday too. I think that's such an incredible legacy, and to get to see Action Comics with my name at the top. On the cover is just insane. Like I can't, because I have all these old Action Comics myself. Action 400 was probably the most inspirational, like foundational comic in my collection. This is like an anthology. It was a celebration issue of everything that Superman is, and the theme of that anthology was Superman in the future. And those stories were just mind-blowingly cool and creative. More so than, I mean, I have so many Superman comics that I love, but having one that was done in more of a high art kind of approach with the best, most famous people in the industry at that time just changed how I looked at the character and how I looked at comics. I was like, whoa, this is not the usual style I'm used to seeing. It just really made me see what was possible. And to have an Action comic now with my name on it, and like, and now more than one, like the series, it's just, I just can't believe it, man. I'm so grateful. Yeah, I hope I'm on that book. It would be, now my dream is to have like a Dan Jurgens like run, like long run
right.
where
Yeah.
Well, I've tweeted it out that I hope you're on the book for as long as humanly possible, because I remember when they announced that you were taking over both books, and they had that interview with you. I think it was Newsarama or one of those sites. I read the interview and I'm like, all right, I don't need to know anything else. He gets it, and it's like,
thanks, man.
I'm like, all right, I can't wait for this run, and just to echo what you're saying about Action being the preeminent Superman, or in your mind the main book. I would agree with that. To me, it's action and detective, and then the other two are the secondary. Having said that, of all the books that I get, there are four that I will refuse to drop at any point, and it's Batman, Superman, action, and detective. So it's like, if I have to drop a book, I'm like doing mental gymnastics. Okay, which one can I read on Comixology and be comfortable with it? Because these four aren't going anywhere. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm glad the books are both. I think Action and Superman are really both firing on all cylinders, which is great because I've been back reading steadily for 17 years, and no disrespect to anybody, but it hasn't always been the case where they're both humming along perfectly, and
Sure.
right now they are. So I couldn't be happier. So like I
Well,
said, I
thank you,
hope
man. That means a lot to me. Believe me, I take the responsibility extremely seriously. I mean, I know it's fiction,
yeah.
and there are things happening in the real world that matter a great deal. But those action comics when I was a kid had a colossal influence on me in a way that I desperately needed as a kid. Like those books. I mean, my childhood kind of sucked, and I lived in my imagination, and having those books just made my life so much more livable. And made my real life so much better. I will never forget that, and I won't forget that responsibility that this book carries.
No, those characters. What you're saying is so true. Those characters, some people may look at it and say, "Well, it's just a fictional character. It's just a comic book. How can it have that much influence?" But they really do matter. Like I mean, when I was a kid, and there was a period of a year where I had like 3 or 4 deaths in the family.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Batman, when I was a kid, really basically I got lost in Batman, and it basically made me feel good. Like it made me feel happy. Where there was that period where, I wasn't. So these characters do mean, a great deal. So what you're saying is 100% on point.
Yeah, the human psyche needs that release. What you're talking about, that is a very real phenomenon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
it's it's weird because a lot of people will say, their first experience with Superman is the '78 movie, or you hear that a lot. Mine, I can appreciate the art, the individuals kind of, but Lois and Clark was my first like live action Superman, because
Mm-hmm.
before it was like, I remember my first comic Superman book was the Man of Steel #1, not the '86 miniseries, but the new, like the triangle numbering.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my first Superman book. So the first time I read him in comics was that, but before that it was the Lois and Clark series, and it just, there was something about the character that just like I was all in on Batman for the first few years there, but then when it was Superman, I was like, oh wow. And then the best part was when I realized that they were in the same universe. I'm like, all right, now
Right.
now we're rolling. So
Right.
yeah, those two characters, just, it's incredible the impact that they have on people, and I think outsiders who aren't into comics, and I mean it's not an outside thing anymore. Now the movies have made them mainstream kind of thing, but people don't realize how important they are, and the impact that they can have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that spirit, can you tell us like how give us like a little bit of an idea about how your narrative, your ideas for the current action storyline came to fruition?
Yeah. I was actually working on. Do you guys know about the 5G thing that was kind of in the works?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was brought on board. I was working on the cosmic stuff. I was going to be kind of like showrunner is not exactly right, but I was kind of like directing some of the cosmic stuff because I'd done the Last God at DC Black Label,
Mm.
and they had noticed that I put entirely too much world building in my books. Like for every word that appears in the script, there's like 10 other words that never get seen that I'm just fleshing out the world to make it seem real. And they're like, "Wow, this guy puts a lot of thought into his books." And I mean, this is all I'm assuming all of this because they mentioned it at some point. And they're like, "We want you to do a lot of that world building on this cosmic stuff and help us flesh out this aspect of the DCU going forward." So I was working on that. We had a couple of titles we were doing, and for that and this other series I was doing also that was not 5G. Well, it was 5G, but it wasn't cosmic. And then that like they changed direction with all that stuff. And as we were putting together the new titles, they were like, well, what if we applied, like this would actually be a really good fit for Superman. So without spoiling what we were doing before, we started seeing it through this different lens. And we knew already that we were going to make Jonathan Kent a bigger deal going forward, and that we're going to make him Superman, like a Superman in his own right. And it made sense it made sense for Jonathan Kent to have his dad elsewhere for a bit, to give Jonathan the room to grow as a character without his dad's shadow. But also, it's something I wanted to do anyway, because I always felt that, I mean, Superman's got an amazing supporting cast, of course. Even, Lois and Clark is one of the iconic comic relationships ever, probably the most iconic. She's hugely important, and now Jonathan is too, the Daily Planet crew. But I don't want to just see Superman in the context of the Daily Planet newsroom. I mean, it's a cool aspect of his character. I love that he chose to be a journalist, but he's also the champion of the oppressed throughout the multiverse. He's not even just an Earth character. He can go anywhere. He's presumably been saving lives and fighting for truth and justice everywhere. And I want to see more of that. I want to see like John Carter of Mars kind of Superman stories where he's out there kicking ass in other galaxies,
Okay. Yeah.
I thought that Bendis did a really great job of humanizing the character, making him seem very relatable, seeing him interact with all these other characters, fleshing those characters out more. We got to see a lot of Jimmy, which is cool. We got to see a lot of the other characters, Daily Planet. That's all awesome. But I was ready to put some seriously, like, capital S super back into Superman and see him on these epic adventures and quests that just blow everyone's minds. I wanted to see like a more sci-fi epic approach.
Well, obviously as a Green Lantern fan, I'm on board with that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Green Lantern is like, yeah, dude, Green Lantern are like the Jedi, right? I want to see, whenever I see a Green Lantern book, I want to see thousands of years of history and like the legends of these other Green Lanterns who've gone before, just flesh it out and make it seem big and old and rich. I want to see that applied to Superman too. So we get to do that now, and I'm super excited. So I try to take a lot of the threads that Ben began and run with them in a direction that made sense to me. Like he established that there's a new monk, and he also established United Planets. Revealed Superman's identity. There are a lot of things that happened during that run that we can now continue in a more epic direction.
Yeah, no, the run. I mean, the scope of it is incredible, and like you said, Superman or Clark at the Daily Planet is great, and there's definitely a need for that, in certain places. But it's also cool to see him take, when need to, the fight and all, but more so protecting Earth and other places in the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that character to keep him earthbound, 24/7 every issue. I don't necessarily think that's needed. You know what I mean? And it kind of goes against the character. The character's yes, he protects the earth, but like you said, he's capable and has the strength and all the powers to protect the oppressed in the multiverse. So why wouldn't you take him to that level? And also, I really like how you mentioned the John Carter of Mars thing, because you really do see that, especially with the future state stuff.
Yeah,
that was really, and see, at least I think where you're going, we're going to see a lot more of that aspect.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, the Superman Worlds of War issues. That was some big time foreshadowing. I wanted to give readers a taste of what was to come. So we're gonna see that basically come true in the story that we're telling now.
And I really like the stories where in the future state stuff, where you had all the different characters kind of relaying their thoughts or stories about Superman. That was really cool, because you get to see, at least for me, it put those people, the characters in those stories, in the position of the reader, and how kind of we see him as we're reading his story. So that was kind of really cool. and the art in those books was just phenomenal. So,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I've been so blessed with artists. Daniel Samperi has been an amazing collaborator.
Yeah.
He's just crushing it every issue. His final issue on the series is 1036, the first issue of the War World Saga, which is about to come out.
Mhm.
And then we've got the great Miguel Mendonça jumping on for a couple issues. He's also doing some really incredible work. So he's doing issues 1037, 1038. That's the November, December issues, assuming that the supply chain stuff doesn't get us. And then in January, my old collaborator from The Last God, Riccardo Federici, is coming on board as the regular
Okay.
series artist.
Okay.
And that guy is a genius.
yeah,
Like
I saw the tweet that he posted with a portion of his artwork, and I'm like, okay, reveal the rest now. I want to see the whole image. It's like, that
Oh
looks
my
so
God.
that was amazing.
It's killing me holding on to that cover. The cover's done, and it's an actual fucking painting that he did by hand. It's not even that big, and it looks unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the interiors are looking that good. Like, it's just stupid how good he is. It's stupid. It's offensive. He's like a Dutch master who just decided to do comic books. It's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to show you what's coming. I mean, it's as far as
we can't wait to read it. Yeah.
all the legit sword and sandal badassery stuff that really starts to take hold in the January issue, and that's Ricardo's first issue with us. I'm writing everything specifically for him to draw, and if you've seen The Last God, man, it's the stuff. He's getting better. Like, it's nuts. It's nuts what he can do. And he was with the stuff that we're about to show you in the War World Saga. He was born to draw this stuff.
That's all. I can't wait. I mean, like I forgot to put the Batman Superman The Authority when I did the my orders. For
yeah.
I forgot to put it on, and then I realized that when I asked you on Twitter, I said, does it connect to Action Comics? And you're like, yeah. So I phoned the store right away. I'm like, you gotta give me. I know there's issues with things being pushed back and everything. You gotta give me this issue. He's got it. I just haven't gotten to the shop.
Oh man, I hope you love it. Funny story about that issue. So that was going to be with Trevor Harrison, the artist who did Deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor's amazing. I never worked with Trevor. I've known his work forever, and he's incredible. But I never worked with him. So he was on board to do it's this 40-page issue, and Trevor was on board to be the artist. And then I get a call from my editor after that, Paul Kaminsky, who was like, "Hey, so Trevor can only do half the issue. He can do 20 pages, but his schedule won't allow for more." I was like, "Oh, okay. So who do you want to? I guess we got to bring in a fill-in guy then." He's like, "Yeah. How do you feel about Ben Templesmith?" And do you guys know Templesmith's work? I was like, "What? Like, that looks nothing like Trevor." But then we started kind of kicking around. I was like, "Actually, that's kind of genius." Like, since we had time, because whenever I see a fill-in artist, unless they match pretty damn close, it can kind of take me out of it, right?
It can be kind of jarring, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But what if we make it really jarring? Instead we write to that story, like we make it part of the story, make it into like a thing that wouldn't work any other way. So I basically just scrapped the idea that I was working on and just made up something completely new to specifically for two artists. So we did like this multiverse thing where there's two different worlds playing out. And yeah, dude, I'm very proud of it. It really energized me for the writing, and it became like a real joy to work on because of the way the art team shook out. So I hope you dig it. I'm very proud of it.
I can't wait to read it. I'll definitely give you some quick thoughts once I read it. We actually recorded a review. You should be good. We've had some editing kind of slow down for a bit, but we actually recorded a review. We caught up on the Action Comics run up until this point. So
great.
That should be posting. I'll post it before the interview. So if you're watching this, you've already seen our review.
Did you review? Which one did you review? Sorry.
We had done 1030 and 1031, so we did 1032 to 1030. Was it 1035, Donnie? 1032 to 1035.
It was it was 4 issues that we did on the last one. So
thanks.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun with that too.
Yeah.
1036 comes out on Tuesday, and that is probably my favorite of the series so far. Have you read 1036 yet?
Is that
that's the one that's about?
Has it?
No, I didn't know if you guys got an advanced copy.
Yeah,
I'll shoot you a
I wish
PDF.
they'd send us advanced review copies, but
I'll send you one over.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Well, definitely, because I told Donnie, I said we've got to review this Batman Superman Authority book. So what we'll probably end up doing is do that and then Action 1036 together.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's going back and rereading those four. I'm like, man, I can't wait for the next issue. Then I'm getting angry because of the supply, the issues that the printing and stuff. So like,
I know.
come on,
I
let's
know.
work this.
I know, dude. I was frustrated. But yeah, if you remember in 1035, there's that moment where the Justice League comes and says, Superman, hey, really sorry about your loss. Also, you're fired. And then he turns around and Batman's there and they talk. And Batman's like, so my intelligence tells me that you've got another team lined up. And he's like, yeah. And Batman says, tell me about him. The Batman Superman and the Authority story leads right out of that conversation. So awesome. Batman's got this mission lined up that the Justice League can't do, and he needs Superman and his new crew. So basically, it's like a trial run for the Authority.
Okay.
It's awesome because that moment and the lead up to that moment where Superman turns and he's like, "Oh, you're still here? You're changing it up after all these years?"
Yeah, he's
I'm like, man, that's a perfect synopsis of these two guys. It's like, and I know they're doing something with these two characters again, like the world's finest book. But I'm like, damn, I need a book again with these two together. Like
I know, that'd be so
DC,
fun.
If you want my money, just keep printing Action Detective, Batman, Superman, and a Batman Superman title. It's not hard. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they're doing. There's a World's Finest coming out with Mark Waid and Dan Mora.
Yeah, starting it as a backup, right? So
I don't know. Maybe so.
Yeah, I think it's starting as a backup in Detective, and then hopefully it'll expand to an ongoing. But yeah, Mark Waid back at DC. I mean, where do I give my money? Who do I give my wallet to?
Wade's great. Yeah, and Dan Moore is great. Dan Moore is
he's quite impressive.
Before I hit you with the last question here, I've got to ask. As you can see, I'm a big collectibles guy. What is that behind you with Batman and Superman?
Oh,
yeah.
This is hold on.
Oh wow.
This is my only statue.
Oh, it is. Oh wow.
Oh,
look at that. Yes.
Yeah, the fight from Dark Knight Returns.
It's incredible.
Done. And if you the Bat Tank thing is busted open with the wires coming out of it, and Carrie Kelly's inside of it with a slingshot pointed at us. If you look in there.
Oh, is that Sideshow or DC Direct? Who did that? Do you remember?
I forget. It doesn't say. I can't remember.
It's gorgeous though. I love it.
That's a beauty.
My eye is always attracted to collectibles, so.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of. Well, I mean, I've got. Where's the other guy? I think I might have taken it downstairs. I got the collector's edition or the I'm a huge nerd edition of Arkham City, the Arkham City game, and that came with a little figurine of the Arkham City version of Batman, like overlooking the city or whatever. So I have that somewhere just because it came with the game. And then I did the same thing with Arkham Origins. So I've got the Joker with his like knife in the table and all the TVs up behind him.
Oh right,
so I've got those because I bought the games. But aside from this is the only thing I actually bought just because.
I have a DC Direct one. It's not near me, so I can't pull it out. But it's Superman versus Darkseid, and it's pretty. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. Awesome. So yeah, it's
cool. Yeah, at some point I'll probably get an Alien one too because I love Alien.
Because you're writing that for Marvel, right?
Yeah, God, I love that book too. So since I get to write that, and I'm a huge Alien fan, I had my eye on the space jockey that's I think it was Sideshow did that. Had this massive ass space jockey that looked just like sex. It's just so but it's kind of a lot and it takes up a lot of space. I probably won't get but I until I'm like 70 and almost out of time, but we'll see. I do have some other artistic things that are not comic related. There's this statue of because my love of martial arts. I have this figurine of a kendo player that I like. This is from my dad's old office when I was young.
That's awesome.
So I have that, but that's about all I have.
I'm a martial artist too. I do karate as well, so I appreciate the.
Oh, cool! What form?
I haven't done it in a while because of the pandemic and things are still all over the place. but it's
Yeah,
killing me because it's like I want to get back.
I know. I was doing a lot of jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai before everything kind of shut down, but I'll get back to it. I'll still, I'll do YouTube stuff, just work the bag.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay, so who is Phillip Kennedy Johnson aside from the creative genius? What inspires you? What gives you satisfaction?
well, I don't feel like I deserve the creative genius bit, but thank you.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I said about not being a spectator. I just really want to live a full life, and if something moves me, I want to do it. I love making things. I guess most of all, most of all, I guess a father these days. I didn't really have the relationship with my dad that I wanted when I was a kid, or since then. Now I'm oversharing on a podcast, but
It's all good.
You go
but
ahead and say whatever you want.
in part, the devil is real. No, so my so yeah, I don't know. I just really wanted that really close father son bond thing. Since I never really had it, when I had a son of my own, we are just unusually close. I feel like my own hangups throughout my own life have made me like hyper focused on my relationship with my son. And now he and I just have this amazing relationship. We're best friends, and we play all the time. Whenever I make sure I make time for him every day, and he's just so goddamn cool. He just loves all the same stuff that I did when I was a kid, and yeah, I just love him so much, man. So I guess I identify as a father more than anything.
Okay.
I just put a lot of myself into him. But I also just love making things. I want to. I'm not much of a social media person. I'm not much of a marketer. I'm not much of a publicist. I just really want to just make things and be left alone. As far as like, there's other elements. I see a lot of my my peers in comics, people like Scott Snyder and James Tynan and Rom V and Tom Taylor, and these guys who are all doing incredible work, but are also really great at building their careers, like seeing themselves as their own like small business,
Mm-hmm.
and building up their business that way. I admire the hell out of that, and I'm I'm trying to be more mindful of those kinds of things. But really, I just love making things, and I really admire the career that Neil Gaiman has made for himself. For example, where he just writes whatever he wants. I heard something once where he was advised very early on, like, you got to find your niche. Like what are you? You got to define yourself as a writer. Stick to that niche and become that thing. And he fought back against that. I was like, fuck that. That's all. I want to do all kinds of things. And he did. He does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that he just decided, I want to write comics. I want to write screenplays. I want to write novels and short stories and kids books and episodes of Doctor Who, just whatever the hell I want. I love, and I'm trying to emulate that in my own career. Right now I do a lot of comics, but I'm trying not to get pigeonholed within the comics industry. And at some point I'll also move into other, like I'm doing a kids book right now as well. And
Okay,
I
cool.
love that Neil Gaiman he did this big thing, I think at the Sydney Opera House, where he read a story that he wrote himself, and there was art being projected behind him and music playing, and it's just this all encompassing experience of artistic achievement. And I love that. I want to do something where I write the story, but I also write the music, and probably won't I probably won't subject an audience to my artwork, but I just love the unbridled creativity of that, and that's trying to live my life that way.
Okay.
You're definitely the way you were talking about your relationship with your son. That definitely came through in the Superman in action. Was it the two-parter?
Well, thank you so much, man. Yeah, the Golden Age I did with Phil Hester.
Yeah.
Thank
That
you.
came through.
Appreciate that. And yeah, the issues of Superman after that was Scott Godleski. That whole thing was like a literal, just open letter to my son too, just about his future and what I think of him, how I see him.
Yeah.
And I just wanted him to have that he can go back and read when I'm gone.
That was very powerful
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
well done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you're going to see more of that dynamic too when Superman's on a War World. Like, I know there's a lot of people who wanted to see John made young again. And there were a lot of reasons why I thought that was a bad move. So I decided to carry the ball forward rather than backwards. But But I do really love seeing Superman as a father, and they're gonna,
As do I. Yes.
yeah, there are going to be developments on Warworld that that bring young John fans back to where they want to be. I think, like at some point, Johnson's story and Superman's will come together again. The super family will be whole again, and I think we're going to see some changes that fans will really love.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, can't wait. It's like I said, it's been a great run so far, and I hope it continues as long as possible. I'm loving
Thanks,
it.
brother. I appreciate that.
One more
Thanks for
question
coming.
before we
Sure.
wrap up. You've written Superman, and you know, within the book, there's been some guest stars. You know, you have the Authority in there. You've had Batman, the JLA, or parts of the JLA. Is there other DC characters specifically that you'd like to take a real crack at that you haven't yet?
In Action Comics or just in general?
In general.
There's a Batman murder mystery kind of story I want to do. I want to do like a legit detective noir Batman story.
Awesome.
There's also a ventriloquist story in me that I want to get out there, like a Black Label story entitled "Dummy," that really peels back the layers of that character and how scary and screwed up that guy really is, and what kind of person that like. I'm fascinated by that character. I always have been. I've always wanted to see more Scarface, more of the ventriloquist.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to make that happen someday.
Awesome.
I love the Spectre.
Oh yeah.
Super creepy, and like I think there's an opportunity to do something really cool there. I would love to do like a horror style Aquaman story. I mean, the ocean's scary, man.
It's the trench.
Yeah.
It's all there
Yes.
in the trench. Yeah.
I feel like we should be able to tell. We should make Aquaman a horror book at some point, kind of like they did for Immortal Hulk. How Immortal Hulk became
Yeah.
horror.
Oh, it's a
We
great
could
title.
we could totally do an Aquaman book that way.
Awesome.
Gosh, what else? Red Hood. I'd love to do a Red Hood heist book. There's all kinds of stuff. At some point, I would love to do a Hellblazer Doctor Strange crossover.
Oh wow.
Because I feel like those guys would just hate the shit out of each other, you know. Like because Doctor Strange is all like the flashy on its face magic power stuff, and Hellblazer John Constantine is more of a blue collar guy who he's powerful, but he kind of resents magic. Like he doesn't really want it anymore, and he has no patience for the people who put themselves on the pedestal as like a wizard or a magician. He kind of like just rolls his eyes at everybody. So I think he would just have total disdain for Stephen Strange, and I think Stephen Strange would see Hellblazer as like just this buffoon charlatan.
Right.
And I think it would be really fun to have those guys. I mean, obviously, I see the roadblocks,
Right.
but someday I'm gonna figure out a way to make that work.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really
I missed Marvel and DC crossovers, so you know.
Yeah. I mean, Hellblazer. I've read every word of Hellblazer. I'm a massive Hellblazer fan. I know they usually try to put the UK guys on that book, and for obvious reasons, but I feel like I could do the language pretty well, and I just love that character. So that would, I mean, if I had, aside from the Batman detective things I really want to do, I guess Hellblazer would be my white whale.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Interesting.
It's a real pleasure to talk to you guys. Meet you both.
No, it's been fun again. We thank you for sitting with us, and if you're open to it, we'll do it again later on in the run.
Totally.
It's been an honor, sir.
Thank you. Well, for me too. Thank you guys so much.
But just if people want to keep track and follow you on social media, where can they do that?
Well, I have a website at phillipkennedyjohnson.com. 2 L's in Philip. Kennedy like the president, Johnson like the lesser president. Let's see, on Twitter, I'm at Phillip K. Johnson. Facebook under my full name, and Instagram with my full name with underscores between.
Awesome.
Okay.
So give him a follow and be nice. Don't. He doesn't need trolls attacking him.
That's fine. I can take it.
Stop that. Fandom, stop that stuff. But no.
It's pretty lame, but it's fine. It's part of the gig.
It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we can have you back again soon. And stay well, sir, and stay super.
You too, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it. That was our interview with Action Comics writer Phillip Kennedy Johnson. What a fantastic time that was, Donnie? It was fun.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
great
guy
guy.
has lived a lot. His life is just very full.
Yeah, yeah, and great guy. Fantastic writer on on Action Comics. If you're not reading that book yet, pick it up either at your local comic shop or through Comixology, whichever way you choose to read your comics. But definitely support it and buy it. It's fantastic. Um, but as usually happens with our interviews, we forget to do our social media plugs. So, Donnie, if after this interview people want to talk to you about that action figure that you're displaying, or Superman in general, or Green Lantern, because I know you're going to mention that anyway, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Green Lantern.
And if you want to find me, it's at Adam_Leafs fan on Twitter. And if you want to just find the social media for the podcast network, it's at MMNPDC. We have a Facebook page, which is in the description below. Click that, ask for permission to join, and I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But until next time, remember that Superman in Action Comics is forever, from the first issue to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.